happening again.
Welcome to Mindshifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeannie. Michael and Jeannie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rakhma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Well, welcome to the show today. It's an awesome day in Florida. We're in Boca Raton. Just spent the evening with some friends here in Boca, looking out the window at this absolutely incredible purple tree that has these flowers that are just the color, the energy that comes off them is so nurturing. Anyway, so we are here with an invitation. Our invitation, as we do every day, is an invitation to be part of the team that changed the world, to put an end to war on planet Earth. How do you do that? Well, what you do is you start taking responsibility for your life. And when you start taking responsibility, you change the energy that you bring to planet Earth. And that means that instead of hostility and fear that, most people in the traditional world have somebody else to blame for their hostility and fear, you actually take responsibility and you say, well, here's an energy in my field that I think would be good for me to get rid of, instead of blaming everybody else for it, and you begin the forgiveness process. And the forgiveness process is the exact opposite of what this culture teaches us forgiveness, and not just this culture, but it seems to be just about global, and that is the Greek idea that you did something really terrible that caused all this pain inside of me, but it's okay, I'll forgive you, I'll let you off the hook for what's happening inside of me, which, of course, does nothing to change what's happening inside of me. It leaves me with my hostility and fear, and leaves me contributing on an energetic level the hostility and fear that is the cause of all conflict and war. So here we are, putting an end to it. A team that says, okay, I'm going to take responsibility, and I'm going to start to move from inside of me the hostility and fear that I feel and move to a space where I embody a true human life. And what is a human life? How do you define that? The easiest definition, it's totally wordless. It doesn't take anything but just imagine holding a newborn child. You know exactly what human life is. And I'd offer that's what you and I are designed to live out of. If we're not living out of that, we have a problem. Of course, when we have a problem, we play the game of, not me, denial. 2,000 years ago, a fellow named James in the New Testament says, get rid of your denial. Stop this playing game of it's everybody else's fault. And if you want to know more about how that forgiveness process works, hang around, stick around with us for a day, a week, a month, a year, and you will not believe what you're going to hear if you're living in the traditional world. Because what you're going to hear is how to delete, literally hit the delete key on everything based in hostility or fear, and come to the point where, instead of hostility or fear, you hold a space of love for the things that yesterday looked pretty crazy and pretty bizarre. If you go to www.whyagain.com, on the right-hand side, you'll see a link that says Download Worksheets. And if you click that link, the first 4 links will tell you the whole story, and it will give you personal guidance through the forgiveness process. And so here we are in process with that, and I just have this strong inclination. I'm sitting here with Michael and Margaret, and we actually visited yesterday and had a spontaneous gathering of people at a place called the Heart Painter Studio in Boca Raton, the business location of a young woman named Evelyn Bailing. And she hosted us as we went through a worksheet session with everybody. There were 4 or 5, I guess there were 6 of us there. And we went through a worksheet session, and both Michael and Margaret were there as we did that. And at dinner last night after the session, there was a lot of conversation, and Margaret shared how some of the things in her life that yesterday were a drama and trauma for her had shifted and changed. So I'm going to actually hand the phone to her and invite her, if she'd be willing, to just share a little bit about what that looks like, what that feels like, and what it takes to do it. So I'm going to give Margaret the phone. Here she is.
I started doing this work almost exactly 1 year ago, and when I started doing the worksheets, it was at a really super trying time in my life, and I found that the more I did them, the more relief I got, and over time, I found the issues I've worked on in my worksheets, I'm able to be in those same situations that upset me in the past and triggered upset in me in the past, and yeah, and now I can be in all kinds of situations that would have triggered fear or anger or frustration, hostility of all sorts, and now I can be in those situations, and it's absolutely peaceful, and it's become so completely clear to me that this hostility and fear was inside of me, and I now that I understand it, I can sit down and help myself at any time wherever I am, and I carry worksheets in my wallet, and I'm always ready to work on a problem whenever something comes up. So I'm so grateful for this in my life, and when someone triggers me in life these days, which, it still happens, because I do still have hostility and fear inside of me, when I'm triggered, I say to myself, thank you for showing this to me because you're doing me a favor, and then I work on my own issues on my own, and I've gained a great deal of peace, and I'm just so grateful for this work and grateful that I had the opportunity to discover it in my life, and thank you to Michael for teaching this to all of us. I'm so grateful.
Breathe, that's awesome. It's powerful, and it's pretty amazing to walk through life knowing that you are responsible. Now, one of the problems with that idea of responsibility is most people have been brainwashed. The idea of responsibility means I'm to blame, it's my fault, I'm the guilty party, I'm the one who's bad and wrong, and our input to you is you're not bad or wrong, you're not guilty, you're not at fault, you're not to blame, you're just responsible for what's in your physiology. What's in your physiology has come from 1,000 generations of the insanity of the world and your own lifetime of, and our definition of insanity is what looks like the human body functioning without a human life, that is, without the active presence of love. And a couple of weeks ago we did a show with Michael, and he came on. Michael's a former military trainer and lived in this world of, what should we say? What would you call it, Michael? A world void of human life? Just to be gentle about it? Yeah. And one of the things he shared on the show is how he would, in order to deal with some of the hostilities, would go trolling in crack neighborhoods in order to not pick up drugs, but to get attacked. So he had an opportunity to drug by using the rage to turn around and take somebody out. So. And the shift that Michael's gone through is now he's working with a lot of people in the AA program and NA program and just supporting the healing process in the world. It's just awesome to hang out with these guys. But Michael had a particular experience, and I just asked him if he'd be interested in sharing that with the group. He had an experience unfold over the last few weeks that was pretty interesting, and he went out to deal with it this morning, and I'll just let him share it.
Good morning. In one of the meetings that I attend to, one of the fellowships I belong, I had some issues, some medical issues that were weighing down on me, and I had spent a day driving around with a gun in my car, and I went to a meeting to share about that, and during the meeting I shared about not only the experience of that isolation, that non-human being aspect of fear, and trying to take control of what I had no control over. But I also shared the solution and then the positive aspects of where I come to. Unfortunately, there was somebody there who didn't have that reality, and their filters were set to a certain way that they could only hear the pain or the aspect of the fact that I was driving around with my car. And I had come home from the meeting. I swung by a couple places to do some stuff. I was outside taking care of the animals, and 2 policemen showed up at my door, and they were there to not necessarily arrest me, but it felt like an arrest. I was ended up put in cuffs and walked down the street with no shirt on and placed in the back of a police vehicle and taken to a certain county-run mental facility. And I spent a day there, actually 2 days, when you really think about it. I got there in the afternoon, and I was released the following afternoon. And I had a problem with my program of recovery because I felt betrayed. Today, I had ventured out to the very place where the betrayal had happened. I decided it was time to face that fear and face it with love and understanding, not just on my behalf, but on the people within the rooms. And
I assume you've done a few worksheets on that issue since it happened. What was that, 3 weeks ago?
It happened a little while ago. Yeah, I've done probably 20 different worksheets on it. And each worksheet comes from a different angle. Initially, it was all about the person who betrayed me, and then it became deeper, and then it was about the feelings that they must have felt or the experience they must have lived through so that their filter was set to, oh my God, this man's about to take away his life. So the pain that they had to deal with. So as I worked on the worksheets, the level of intensity and the direction or the well from which those emotions were coming out of shifted. And so today was the day that I decided to go to the original place to make amends with myself, and as well as with the fellowship to see what would happen. And it was a little scary at first, but it was time to make those things done. And doing the worksheets, if you're really honest, can bring you to a place of higher understanding of not only yourself, but of the human cause and what we all suffer from and what we think we suffer from rather than what we suffer from.
Cool. Awesome. Well, one of the points you bring up is that, if we're willing to tell ourselves the truth, there's a woman actually here in Fort Lauderdale that has done our work for about 15 years, and over the years she'd used many of the tools that we teach that we put together but would not use the worksheet, hated the worksheet, wouldn't put a pen to the paper. And last year when we were here, she came to the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop, the forgiveness workshop, and she understood, and I think maybe because I'm finally learning how to teach it after 25 years, she understood why and how the worksheet worked. And about 2 months later, she wrote me an email just saying, Michael, I just want you to know, and this is somebody who for 15 years wouldn't touch a worksheet. She said, I want you to know that this worksheet has become my absolute best friend. She said, I use it every day, and I can tell this worksheet the truth about everything I've never told anybody and everything I've never admitted to myself. I can put it down on the worksheet, and I can work through it. So, when we live in – there's some interesting Harvard research that says that in a time frame where there are 10,000 brain cells firing off, the max amount of information that we can be conscious of is 9 bits. Actually, Jeannie is going to school, and she came up with some research recently that said it might be as little as 3 to 4 bits of data. And so under the surface, there's all this stuff going on that most of us try to live above, try to suppress, but it impacts every thought, every feeling, every behavior, every perception. In fact, they understood that so well in the Aramaic that they actually have a suffix that they added to a word that says, this is what's affecting your perception, decisions, and behavior from an unconscious level. And when you can get honest with yourself, when you can get to the truth of it, when you can get to the generational grief and fear and hatred and vengeance and rage and murder, suicide, when you can get to those things and put them out on the paper and actually get to look at them and bring the exposure level up to where you have the capacity to keep your human life present, love, at the same time as you bring that forward, what happens is the power it has over you dissolves. Now, that seems like a phenomenal story, and it just sounds like some kind of a fantastical story when you first hear it. But when you start to do it, it changes everything. And we are here to support you in changing everything in your life. we are here to give every mind, heart, and being on planet Earth the tool of forgiveness. It was brought to this planet 2,000 years ago. It was disappeared almost as instantly as it arrived. Because what it takes to use this tool is the willingness to look inside. And what we do is we live, or what we've done is we've created an externalized culture where it's all out there and don't dare look within. I love what Plato said. He said, an unexamined life is not worth living. And I like to edit Plato just a little bit. An unexamined life is not living. It's just playing out whatever's in that dissociated or unconscious mind. And so we're here to support people. And you have the ability within you to literally work through and let go of every hostility, every fear, every grief, every rage, every pain, every trauma that you've ever experienced, and especially that you've ever blamed somebody else for. And actually, yeah, that is laughable, isn't it? When you really get how that happens. So, and Jeannie is not with us today. If everybody would just send her some love and support. You know, we've talked over the last couple of weeks. It's about 2 weeks ago now. Her former husband passed away, and she's the executor of his estate, and she has a son with him and 2 stepsons that she raised. And so about 2 weeks ago, she went back to Bristol, Tennessee, her hometown, where her husband was in the process of making his transition out of his body. Unfortunately, she missed getting there by about a half an hour before he left, and was there with her boys to process. And one of the thing that took him out were the things, in my understanding, would be the things that couldn't be said, couldn't be dealt with, and it was really neck and throat cancer that he passed from. And so, not surprisingly, as Jeannie's been doing a lot of work and processing there, her throat is basically opened up, and all the things that have never been dealt with and never been said are all right there on the surface and physically detoxifying those things. And so if you would support her, she's not going to be on the show today because she can hardly speak with her throat being as red and raw as it is. At about 21, she had her tonsils removed, which is one of the first lines of defense. So she didn't have that line of defense. And as you start to allow yourself to deal with the things that haven't been dealt with, physiology has to go through its process of release. And so she's in that release process, and we certainly hold the space for her and hold her in a blessing and send her all the support and love that we can. And so Carol is with us today, handling the chat room. And Carol has her radio show on the Angel Radio Network. She's the one who actually started the Angel Radio Network on Blog Talk, and we've extended to still another radio station that we're playing through as well. And we're actually talking about creating something with Sirius Radio so that this will be available to people driving down the highway as well. So Carol has her show actually 2 hours before us on Monday from 11 till 12, and then on Friday she'll be on. And it sounds like it's going to be a fun show because there's a student of ours, Dale Allen Hoffman, who actually originally introduced Carol to my work and me to Carol's work. And Dale's a young man who, at 15 years of age, came and spent a summer at Heartland and did his work. I started to understand the forgiveness process, kind of went home and disappeared for about 6 years. And then 6-7 years later, Dale and I made contact again, and now Dale is in the process of becoming one of the foremost Aramicists on the planet, that he's really, with an understanding in the brain cells of forgiveness and having done his work, moving that forward. So he's going to be interviewed on Friday's show from 12 to 1 o'clock, just before our show. So mark your calendar, spend 2 hours with us on Friday. Carol, are you there?
I am here, Michael. Yes, Dale's going to be with us. He's got a DVD out now called The Word, and with the Aramaic teachings, and it's just magnificent. I watched it this week, and he sent it to me, and he's been on the show for many years with me, and he's our connector that connected you and I together, and it's just really going to be a magnificent show because I love this work. Mhm.
Yeah, Dale is doing some really cool stuff. Actually, maybe I'll talk to Dale and see if, when he finishes your show, if he wants to just continue, and we'll continue the conversation, and we'll do a whole 2 hours, and maybe even the three of us can just do that second hour together and continue the conversation about the Aramaic and the forgiveness process. As a young man, he was a musician. When he first came to Heartland, he was about 15. He came to one of my workshops in in Tampa area. He lived in Tampa, St. Pete area, and just really tapped into the work and ended up coming to Heartland, and now the instrument he uses is his voice, but not singing the way he was back then, but in bringing healing to people through an understanding of the Aramaic tools of Yeshua. And he's just, it's been awesome to watch him blossom, his family, and all. It's just fabulous to be part of that. So that would be cool.
Yeah, that would be really awesome. Yeah, we can email him and see what his plans are Friday, and see if he'd like to join you on the show. And I'll speak with him and see. Either way, we both can contact him. Mm-hmm.
I'll touch in with him too, and we'll see what happens. So, do we have any callers or anything happening in the chat room to be aware of?
Well, let's see. Nothing in the chat room at the moment, but if people would like to call in, please call in at 464-200-4169, and make sure you press number 1 so I know that you'd like to speak with Michael. I believe Tim is online, and we do have a caller as well. So I'm going to bring Tim on, and then we'll bring our caller on.
Cool. Before we move forward, the phone number, actually, I think you turned the first 3 digits around. It's 646, not 464, but 646.
Oh, okay. All right.
Just a little off.
There's so many numbers on the chat board, on the switchboard.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And let's say hello to Tim. How are you this morning, sir?
Doing quite well, thank you. And
for those
delighted to hear the comments from the people you're there with and how they've progressed over this past year.
Yeah, it was awesome. This was just kind of a spontaneous Mind Shifter support group that happened yesterday afternoon, and afterward we had dinner together, and the young lady who owns the Heart Painter Studio, we invited her to come do a movie with us. Good thing she didn't. We all kind of wasted our evening on the movie, but we won't talk about that. But anyway, she was like, no, I'm going home to do worksheets. And by about 11 o'clock this morning, it texted me to say she was on her 5th worksheet this morning, and she'd done the Y workshop before, but it came through at a whole different level, whole new level, and so it is pretty exciting to watch as people get it. And so on Wednesday, I don't know if she might call into the show, but on Wednesday she's going to start a support group in Boca Raton, so that'll be cool. And so welcome to the show.
Well, it may be her. I don't know, Michael. We have a number here, and it is area code 954, which is this area. You're on the air, 954?
Hi, Carol. Hi, Michael. How are you doing? It's Evelyn at the Heart Painter.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Michael, are you there? Oh, Michael?
Hello?
Evelyn, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, well, I'm not sure where Michael went.
I'm here.
Oh, good.
Okay. We thought we lost you, Michael. He disappeared in the ethers.
Just for a second.
Evelyn's online with you.
Hey, Michael.
Hello, young lady.
Hi, thank you so much for last night. That was really wonderful.
It was, wasn't it? The whole group, Ron and Michael and you, and it was, the whole thing was just fabulous.
Love that spontaneity.
So what happened on your, what realities did you have about what happened? And, one of our goals, of course, with this show is to support people around the planet in doing the work and in supporting and inspiring others to do the work. So if you could, what led you to say, Wednesday before our Course in Miracles group, let's do a support group. How did that open? What happened for you?
That was it was a great idea. Well, what happened is when we were all having the support group yesterday, the spontaneous one, it just seems so powerful to all get together and talk about doing the worksheets so that we can get through the worksheets and make an impact. So that's what spurred it on. So we're going to be doing that on Wednesdays at 5:30 because the Course in Miracles we study at 7, so we thought maybe an hour and a half before would be perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we'll be doing that at 5:30 at the Heart Painter.
Yeah, so it's the Heart Painter Studio in Boca Raton in the Oyster Plaza, is that
It's
correct?
called the Royal Palm. It's called Royal Palm Place, and it's the plaza south, just south of Meisner Park. And anybody can reach me at 954-551-0402 if they'd like to get some directions, or go to theheartpainter.com for directions. So I'm really excited about doing it. I have found that from yesterday to today, just by doing the worksheets, I just have light bulbs going off. It's just such deep work, and I don't know any other modality that I've ever used aside from breath work that has ever touched, gone deep like that way. So I'm very excited to keep going with these worksheets.
Any particular insights to share from the worksheets? I know that by, 11 o'clock, I'd gotten a text from you that you'd done your 5 worksheets today, and so any other insights to share in that regard?
Well, I don't know if there's anything I really want to share right now, but it's just enlightening. I find that I am surprised when I go through the worksheet. There's always just more there. It gets interesting. It opens up more channels to understand.
Yeah, I like the Greek idea of the hydra, where you cut off the hydra's head and 5 more heads appear, or multiple heads appear, and that's exactly what happens when you take out one reality beneath it, underneath it. Those realities are just the tip of the iceberg. You know, the geneticists, when they first started doing genetic research, were telling us that 95% of our DNA was junk. And there's no junk DNA. It's all content. It's our whole genetic history. And when you start delving into it, it's really interesting what you find there, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. It's like I didn't know. That's what keeps coming to me. It's like, oh, okay. You know, that kind of reaction. And at the same time, I'm listening to your CD, you know, Why Again book. And it's just keep learning. It's great. Your information is fabulous, really fabulous. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to going through the CD and keep doing the worksheets. And with the support group, I think that's going to be really powerful. And keeping in touch. And I'm going to be sending you texts as we discussed yesterday. So that's another accountability.
Say that again. I didn't hear that last statement.
You had said to send you texts. I find that just being accountable is powerful. So if anybody out there is looking for support, that's one way to do it. You know, keep accountable with people that are doing the work.
Yeah, and if there's anybody that wants that support, you're welcome to send me your phone number in the chat room. I'll call you, and we'll invite you to text every day. I'll give you my personal cell number, and that's not for a barrage of phone calls. With the global work that we're doing, I can't unfortunately process everybody all the time because I could do 48 hours a day, 99 days a week, and there aren't that many. So it'll be those who I give it to. I'll ask to honor that it is just for a text to say I've finished my 5 worksheets today, and then if there are questions, one of the reasons for having this show, and we certainly thank Carol for opening the door for it. Because there's been a deficiency in our work for years, decades actually, and that was we go to a city, we do a workshop series, and then, of course, we're on the road. And if a support group didn't form and continue, then the work kind of just disappeared. So now, 5 days a week, an hour a day, we can support everybody on the globe because through the Internet and then through the telephone, anybody on the planet can have access to this work, and that's what we're looking to do, is to create a critical mass shift on planet Earth using the tool of forgiveness. And when you start to delve in, you go back to that old story. It goes back thousands of years ago, and they told us that the Jews crossed, left Egypt, and then went into the desert. And leaving Egypt is leaving the state of denial. It is a state, and it's I've actually kind of considered suggesting to the U.S. government that we form 2 additional states, the 51st and 52nd. One of them would be denial, and the other one would be confusion, because they're the states most people live in. And so when we leave we leave Egypt, symbolically the state of denial, then we enter into the desert. And the desert, we could not translate that word into the English language from the original Aramaic until just a few decades ago. We've lived almost 2,000 years without being able to understand what that word meant. And what we now know is the desert is the dissociated mind or the unconscious mind. And most people live in the desert for their 40 years. And what takes people out of the desert? What takes people out of that unconscious condition where everybody else is to blame? Their spouse is to blame, their children is to blame, their parents are to blame, the government is to blame, the neighbors to blame, the employers to blame, the employees to blame, everybody else is to blame. And you go back all the way to the Garden of Eden, and ostensibly God shows up in the garden and says, "What happened here? What are you guys doing? There's something not right here." And you listen to Adam, and what does Adam say? That woman, the woman to blame, that you gave me. And so now Adam's got the woman and God to blame. And then, of course, the woman says, no, the serpent. It was the serpent that did it. And, everybody's living in that 51st state, denial. And so when you come out of denial, then you enter into the desert. And what has to happen? If you remember, why did it take, if you're thinking of it as a physical journey, it should have taken about 2 weeks. Why did it take them 40 years to do a 2-week journey? And every woman knows the answer to that question. Moses would not stop and ask for directions, right? I mean, it's real clear. Michael's wincing over here. He didn't give me the look. He just kept his eyes closed. But I got it anyway, Michael. But anyway, if you look, what they said had to happen to come out of the desert was that the old generation had to die off. The root of the word generation is genari. It is not to do with everybody in old physical bodies physically dying. The root of the word generation, genari, is cause. All of the old causes held within this neural network of our body-mind unit, this continuing multi-generational database, have to be removed. And you don't remove it if you don't have the tool of forgiveness. And as you say, Evelyn, it's shocking and surprising and amusing and terrifying when you start to look at what we've been hiding from ourselves, isn't it? And what you find out, each worksheet will acquaint you with another part of your dissociated mind. And I believe that it is unnatural for a human being to have a dissociated mind. And so what's the work? And how big is the work? What's the size of it? Well, there's a piece of information that was put out by a friend of mine years ago who was an ophthalmologist. And this fellow used to do energetic light patterns through the eye into the brain to stimulate parts of the brain and bring it back to life where the denial and dissociations had occurred. And the piece of information he used to put out was that there were 800 times the number of molecules in the known universe connections in a single human brain. I think there are probably maybe double that in a married human brain, but in a single human brain, this neural net, you think about it, 800 times the number of molecules in the known universe connections. And it's a huge neural network that contains every insanity too, every blessing, but every insanity of your generations. And so to turn in another direction, interestingly enough, you go back to the Aramaic and the word that the Greeks translated as repentance, which has been made some kind of a, forcing you to tell people how terrible a sinner you are, et cetera, et cetera. The word repent simply means to turn in another direction, to turn away from this neural net with all its insanity and embrace our human lives, and then to bring that human life into the insanity, into the fray, and dissolve the insanity. And that's all you have to do. But you can't bring it in if you're not willing to open that barrier, if you're not willing to go there. So it's a pretty exciting process, isn't it, Evelyn? You still with us, Evelyn?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not.
I'm here.
But Margaret's
she's here.
Oh, okay, cool. Awesome. So,
Michael, there's a question in the chat room as well here, which is this is an awesome question. It says, does this work on past life karmic schedules, such as an event and people your soul has already agreed to encounter in this life?
Yeah, well, there's a way. I used to be a used karma salesman, and
really?
There's a way to bypass the game of karma. Karma means this, and in the Aramaic they spoke of it as sowing and reaping. When you put something in the field, you got to play it out. It's gonna play out. It's like the front wheels of the car follow the back wheels of the car. That's all. And, most people don't want to be responsible for the fact that they're driving the car. And where the back wheels go, they want to blame somebody else for it. Your life is going in a direction because that's where you're driving it. There's no choice about that. And if you sow something based in some form of hostility or fear, then your life is going to reap some form of hostility or fear. In the East, they called it karma. In the Aramaic, they called it sowing and reaping. Now, when you recognize that, then there's a way to short-circuit all of that. It's called forgiveness. And if you do forgiveness, what you can do is you can open the veil of your temple. In the ancient teachings, when they said the veil of the temple must be rent in twain, they were not talking about a purple curtain in a church. They were talking about the barrier between the subconscious and the unconscious mind. And so forgiveness cracks open that barrier and allows you to dissolve what will ultimately be reaped because you've sown it, instead of having to go through the experience again and again and again. So you can wait for all those people that you made appointments with. If you go with the theory of past lives, you can wait for all those people that you've made appointments with, and you can create the drama, the trauma, the karma, the event, and then, throw your hands up and say, oh, well, it's just one of those karmic ties. I guess I just have to live through it. Or there's this guy 2,000 years ago who showed precisely how to put an end to your karma. And that is, you forgive. You go in, you embrace those frequencies in love in your human life that hold you to those past ties, and they change. They transmute. There's a literal transmutation of energy that changes them all. And that's the whole idea of the work. And I have never seen anybody on planet Earth that has put it together the way this man Yeshua did. And in most cases, it was turned around backward, inside out, upside down, and used as a fear trip instead of, hey, come into your own, folks. The things I do, you can do, and better, greater things can you do. But you can't do it if you're carrying around this bag of karma, this load of trauma. And so, to be responsible every time that some form of hostility or fear comes up, put the pen to the paper. And again, if you're not familiar with the forgiveness conversation, please go to the website. On the right-hand side of whyagain.com, there's a link that says Download Worksheets. Click that link. The first 4 links will give you the whole forgiveness story. Now, we occasionally get somebody who says, well, I just don't have anything to do worksheets on. Well, the 5th link under Download Worksheets gives a list of possible worksheets. If you can look at that list and honestly say that you don't have any work to do, I want to touch the hem of your garment. But if you run out of things to do and you check that list out, I'm sure you'll probably find there's lots there to do. And so that's what we're here to support you in. And, it can get heavy, it can get draggy, it can get horrendously painful. And if you wake up to your being, a memory of pain is just a memory of pain. A memory of pain is not painful unless you re-empower it as though it's real today. And you can do that. And it's a skill to stop re-empowering it and making it real pain today, and to recognize, okay, here's something that I hold in my field that does not belong in my field, that is tremendously painful. And I can embrace that, I can bring that forward, I can breathe, and I can process through it. And as I do, I will literally transmute the tissue that it's stored in. We actually did a Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing workshop here in South Florida about 4 weeks ago in Pompano. And Michael was there, and Michael had just gone through a major shoulder surgery, and his recuperation included daily physical therapy. Michael, you want to share what happened the day after you did that Mind Shifters at Still Point Breathing workshop, and how I had to sit on you to hold you down to go through it here?
Yes, during the Mind Shifters, Michael earlier had talked about Kundalini. I wasn't really paying attention because I was writing some notes down. And when it came my turn to do the Still Point Breathing, I started to go into the breathing, and I felt this very intense, very localized burning sensation in my shoulder area, and I tried to get up because it was very painful. And Mike and Pegs, they sat me down, and I tried to get up. I think it was 3 times I made an attempt to get up. immediately after the session, I was able to move my arm, and I thought that was kind of strange. And then I saw both my surgeon as well as my physical therapist, and they could not explain why I had regained the range of motion that I had. There was no medical explanation for my time out of the surgery to the range of motion that I had. It just was, they couldn't define it. And so the theory that stress and pain and anguish can be manifested physically really took root with me on that day, where when I opened myself up to this forgiveness and expose these things to love, and to have that vortex of positive energy come over you and literally clean out your fishbowl, your dirty fishbowl that was your reality, and to be able to come in there and give you a whole new set of windows to be able to look out upon. It was quite amazing, just as the physical ramifications, not just the physical, but the emotional and spiritual ramifications of just how powerful this work can be if you allow it to be. Now, you can do a worksheet and you can lie to yourself and you can put down make-believe answers, and you'll get make-believe solutions. But if you get naked, you don't have to really get naked, but if you get emotionally naked and sit down here and put your true emotions and your true fears, and being a big guy, talking about fears is something that I was trained not to face, that fear was death. And it's the exact opposite, that to be locked in fear is to be dead to the world. And to understand that fear is an aspect and a key to growth, to freedom, is what this work has done for me, and has allowed me to see that I have to be honest and open with myself and go through generations of things. So they're not necessarily my own. I come from generations of warriors. My father was Silver Star recipient during Vietnam. He was in 101st Airborne. My grandfather survived storming the beach at Normandy. He was in Bravo Company, which had an unbelievable casualty rate. And then I came along and I did the same thing. And if you had told me 6 years ago that I would be doing anything remotely close to the work that I'm doing now, I would have probably punched you in the face. But I've come a whole long way just for myself and as a human being to understand what that meant. I was pretty sure I had mortgaged that. The other person was talking about karma, and I was pretty sure that I had already mortgaged all the karma that I was going to get. But this worksheet showed me that I could become a thinking, loving, feeling human being again. It just took a little bit of work and some open heart and an open mind to the steps. Cool.
And as you as we talk, I'm sitting in front of Michael, and Michael's what, about 6'6", Michael? 240, something like that. Former military trainer, and holding it down. It's Margaret's about 5. What are you, 5'2"? So Margaret and I are, the two of us together don't make up Michael, and so it was fun to get him to just hang with
Michael,
it.
we do have another caller too.
Cool, awesome. Well, let's go with the caller then.
Okay, this is area code 954 as well, which is 366 after.
Welcome, 954. Give us a name. Where are you calling from?
This is Barry from Pompano Beach, Florida.
Hey, Barry, how do you be? Now, Barry, geez, you just came back from the Northeast doing some forgiveness work and different things up there. What's happening?
What's happening? I'm in a state of profound humility of how both profound the work is and how much work one needs to do, how much work I need to do. I'm stunned by having been around this work now. We're coming up on our 19th anniversary of my first sitting at the Science of Mind Center in Boca Raton one afternoon early when I was, maybe in my 15th month in recovery or something like that, and I heard you speak for the first time and provide, these tools, and and I've had the opportunity both of many times experiencing introductory workshops, here in Florida, dozens of times, 3 or 4 dozen times at least. And then I've had the experience of being at Heartland a couple of times. And I've done my best to integrate the tools in my life. And coming on 20 years of this and coming on over 20 years of 12-step recovery, I have this very humbling perspective of, that there really isn't anything else but spiritual practice in life, that every time I attempt to go out and focus on the outside job, I'm led right back to that it's all an inside job. My outside job works great when I'm doing the inside job. And it just seems that life always provides me with the next lesson, the next thing that comes up. I'm grateful for the tools that you provided. I've incorporated them in the 12-step work that I do. The people that I've presented them to, it's hard for me to abstract, who gets credit or what percentage tools are 12-step, why again tools, things I learned in EST, in the Astara training, in the Eureka training, in the science of mind work, in the unity work, in the Kabbalah work, in the Indian practices. But it all distills back to something that's, to me now, very simple. Can I hold the space of love? Can I be love? I've shared over times, and some of the people that might be listening might know me if they're, part of the community here or your community. I've adored and loved the songs of the New Age singer Matisha, and he has one song in particular that the refrain in it is "Be the Love." And even though I've had many incarnations within this work of thinking that I understood it, thought I first got it when you were talking about Rakhma and Kuber as being, the filters to intentions and perceptions in our mind, and that I really needed to keep, love conscious, active, present for me to heal. And I'm finding in a moment that it's really about that as a practice, that even though some people say, oh, this worksheet is so complicated, I integrate your worksheet with my 12-step work really in about the 7th step where it says, I humbly ask God, to remove my shortcomings. And to me, it translates back to God is love. I need to resonate love. I'm a spiritual being. I've taken on in this body negativity, whether it be from my genetic history or because I made some choices in life or because I grew up in a dysfunctional family, neighborhood, society, and I had all this negativity that I took on. And so spiritual practice, be love. It's like it just seems to me that the life process is about removing everything unlike love, as you would say, that's the stuff that causes our disintegration, anything unlike love that's stored in our cell structure. And while I can understand the words, I'm humbled by how deeply embedded the patterns and the habits and the resonance of all of that are, I have this image now, and the words I've been using, it's kind of like, it's as if I have a human biocomputer virus stored in my system, and unless I invoke the antivirus, which seems to be something like my holding the intention to be loved, to invite the Holy Spirit in so that the Holy Spirit could do work that I, as an ego-dominated consciousness, can't figure out. I really have to be in that spiritual surrender to be holy, to be God, to be good, to be God-like, to be loving, to be all those qualities as child of God, who I was born into this incarnation am. And so it seems simple, and it's just not easy to do.
Barry, one of the things we talk about in the Why Is This Happening to Me Again book is, the truth is simple, but to a complex mind, the truth is complex, and the complexity is in the mind. And I acknowledge you for the way you've really stuck to doing your work and gone through some tough times with it, and maybe share a little bit about you're going into the prisons every week and working with people, and you just flew up to the northeast part of the United States from Florida to work with a group up there and present the tools, and it's awesome to just see it blossoming in your world, and how many people are doing exactly that around the globe. It's like it's taken on a life of its own. It's going to a whole new level, and perhaps it's the first time in 2,000 years that the real true understanding of how to get into that dissociated mind and overcome the propensity to be lost in it, for it to run our lives. You look back at that ancient scripture where they said, to he that overcomes, and there's this whole list of awesome promises, and there's work to be done, and most people really aren't interested in doing the work. They'd rather just turn it over to somebody else and say, hey, you fix it for me, and they don't overcome, and so they just keep playing out the same stuff. And the idea of the work is to get to, in greater and greater ways, deeper and deeper tastes of the active presence of love of our human lives, of course. And I acknowledge you for the way you're sharing it with people and putting it out there. Anything to share about the prison or your journey up to the Northeast this past weekend?
Well, I'll share two things, and I'll speak in general. If anyone's listening that's a 12-step person, I'm just so tickled by how I've been able to weave these tools into the 12-step work. And I'll say this in particular, and whether it be because I now have 12 hours a month that I speak in the jails here, two county jails twice a month, state prison release program 4 times a month, and Broward Outreach Center, which is really a homeless shelter type a space, and that I present the tools, 12-step tools, integrating what you've taught me, and what currently is so really rewarding to me is I will explain sin in the second step, and I will talk about and for 12-step people who are not 12-step people, the second step is really being about restored to sanity, and the first step is about being it's about accepting that we're powerless over the things that we really have no control. And as spiritual beings, what we really have control over is only our own attitudes and our actions. And so, with the principle of the first step of self-honesty, I can't be restored to sanity if I'm still in denial, because there's nothing more crazier than a spiritual being lying to themselves. So when I get to that second step, and I need to have this unconditionally loving higher power that's greater than myself. And I say greater than myself, I now understand that I'm talking about a small s self-ego, and that the unconditionally loving part, I need to have a God that forgives me and doesn't judge me. And so I'm now learning that if I hold sin as any more than, I made a mistake, I learned from that, I'm not going to do that again. If I hold sin as I'm bad, I'm wrong, I screwed up, and I resonate the judgment in myself, then I will just keep drawing more misery to me. So it becomes a conscious choice. If I can elevate it, how do I do that? Well, I need to hold the space of love. Can I undo everything that I've done? No. It takes the human biocomputer antivirus that I mentioned before, which I now see is the Holy Spirit, and as Michael would say, the cosmic grease of my willingness to really be in surrender, to allow, God's will to emanate from me, for me to be in God's will, for how I be in alignment with that.
Barry, to recognize that, of course, God isn't going to forgive you. God doesn't forgive anybody and is never going to forgive you because God never judged you, but that when you invite that elemental force in you and in each of us, when we're willing and invite that elemental force that is the expression or the energetic presence of that awesome power of love, when we invite it to go to work, it will move the energy that's locked in us. It's nothing to do with the old idea of letting us off the hook, because there's no judgment in the active presence of love. That's all human stuff that does that. And so being able to open and just let that presence move in us is what forgives, is what removes the energy, as opposed to the Greek idea of letting us off the hook. And so it's awesome to see the number of places that you're taking it and moving it forward in the world. It's really cool. And I can't believe this hour has gone by so quickly, but we're down to, I'm not sure exactly, but within just a couple of minutes of the completion of the show. Do you have a final thought for us before we close out? And
Are you speaking to me?
I am, yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I did, and it went right out of my mind.
Okay,
we'll do this another time.
Yeah. We'll look forward to you calling in and sharing more about what you've been doing and what your experience is, and it's fabulous. Dr. Tim, do you have a software? I didn't even hear it, but David, is David with us?
Well, I'm not sure. Tim dropped off too as well earlier. So
David's 417. I think it's 256.
25.
Down to
this
just
might
a
be
few
him.
seconds.
Is this you? Oh, wait a minute. Everything's changing over here. Is that you, David? 417?
David?
Hello.
Hey
Hello.
there, sir. We're down to about 30 seconds. Things have just been flying along here, and so we'll just say that if anybody's Sarasota next week, we'll be doing a full week of workshops there, including Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing. And we'll be in Tampa, and we'll be in Ocala. We're going to do a 9-day intensive. The first week actually will start on Good Friday. It'll be an awesome week, 9-day residential intensive in Palm Coast, Florida. Anybody wants to get away from the north for 9 days and come down and join us, we'll be doing that starting on the 6th of April. And so we'll be delighted to see you and hear from you. If you want to track our schedule, go to www.whyagain.com. You'll see a link that says Travel Workshops. That'll tell you exactly where we are, as well as our intensive schedule for next summer at Heartland. And we'll be delighted to see you. Again, the right-hand side, download worksheets will give you the whole forgiveness process. And Carol, thank you for your support. And I guess we're not going to really get to do the outro today with the way this time has flown by. We'll just let the outro go for today. And thank you for your support. And I will give you a call a little later down the road. Jeannie, we hold you in our hearts and a blessing. And cherish you. Cherish the opportunity to share the planet with you. Blessings, everybody. Have the best year yet of your eternal life. Bye-bye.
Bye.